The shadow is basically your dark side, the side that you don't like to identify with, or the side that you push beneath because you don't really want to deal with it. So for me, sometimes I write out my shadow work, but a lot of the time I'm doing it in my head. So usually I do it when I get triggered by an event, a situation, or a person. And then it usually prompts me to think, why did I get triggered by this? And then you find the why. That's what shadow work is. You're finding the why did I get triggered by this. Sometimes it can be, you know, most of the time it's actually something that happened in your childhood or something that was really traumatic to you that you just pushed. Because a lot of the time when we are getting triggered, there is some type of emotion that's coming up. It can be irritation or frustration, or there's something to do with your ego, or you can even be fearful, you can be scared. So you got to figure that out. For example, if you're scared and you get triggered, you can say, no, I'm actually safe. Like, you have to remind yourself, I'm safe. So it is trying to figure out the repressed parts of yourself, the shadow side of yourself, and through understanding that, we get to know ourselves on a deeper level, and also we're able to accept ourselves. If you want to understand other people more, you need to understand yourself more, because the only way to be able to understand why other people do certain things is through your own experience and through understanding yourself. And shadow work is one aspect of that. But say hypothetically you just go and you watch these psychology videos and you don't apply anything to yourself, it is actually very hard for you to then understand others. In life, it is very important that we are able to understand other people. It will get you further in your career, it will get you more friends, it will make you a more well-rounded and empathetic individual, and many other things. I want to start with a quote by Carl Jung. If you don't know who he is a psychologist, or psychotherapist rather, and he came up with this personality theory. He believed that the human psyche consists of 3 parts. So we have the ego, the personal unconscious, and the collective unconscious. So the personal unconscious involves all experiences and factors relating to the individual, and the collective unconscious refers to the deeply rooted, archaic, and instinctual responses based on human genetics. Yeah, so the collective is basically like your intuition, your fight or flight, the deeply rooted unconscious primal instincts in us. And then the ego is the concept that we are constantly trying to balance the personal unconscious and the collective unconscious, and that's our ego. So the quote is, until you can make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Which basically means you have no control over yourself. You think you have this illusion of control, but if you don't even know yourself, you're not even directing your life. Shadow work, disclaimer, is very confronting, and we need to hold a lot of grace for ourselves. I still do shadow work to this day. It blows my mind how much more and more things just come out over time, the more you get to know yourself. There is a point where I think people can go too deep and then they just end up depressed because they don't know what to do with this heavy shadow self, and they feel like, oh my god, I'm such a burden, I am so broken inside, like what do I do about this? It is really challenging, but you know, without pain we don't get any gain. I've talked about this in other videos, especially my depression videos this year, but the people who try to avoid uncomfortable feelings, thoughts, memories, they try to avoid getting to know those deeper parts of themselves, they are so fucking empty. And it's always those people who have so much to say about the way others live their life, the way others behave, because to them they are perfect. But guess what? Sorry, nobody is perfect. We are all deeply flawed human beings. Ancestral DNA trauma. We have trauma from our parents, which is literally unavoidable because, hey, it's your parents' first time on earth too. Imagine how hard it is raising a child. How can we be truly authentic if we don't know these parts of ourselves? And if we don't love and accept them? Getting to know my darker side, it had put me honestly through a lot of depression, anxiety. I'm like, why am I so broken? Why do I have all this pain? Like, I just want this pain to be taken from me. Over time, I've learned to accept that, work through that, integrate it, and it has made me a better individual. And this can actually link to attachment theory later on, which I'll make another video on. But everything we get hurt by and we don't shake off or process, it then gets integrated into our shadow self and then drives how we act in life. Now guys, if you need a little bit of help with this, I do therapy. What are the ways the shadow self manifests? Jealousy, addiction, depression, promiscuity, anxiety, codependency, creating or being a lot of drama in your life, self-sabotage, power struggles, lies, procrastination, resentment, passive aggressiveness, bitterness, comparison, anger, aggression, rage, violent behaviors, abuse, substance abuse, abuse of others, abuse of yourself, victimization, heavy on that, guilt and shame, reactive discontentment. And if you don't get control of it, it will continue to control your life. The shadow is prone to psychological projection, in which a perceived personal inferiority is recognized as a perceived moral deficiency in someone else. I'm reading my notes, but essentially this means whatever you find annoying in yourself, you're actually going to project that onto someone else and find annoying in them. And that is the first step to getting to know your shadow more. Think about this. Have you ever met someone and you're just so like irritated by them and you don't know why sometimes? You're just like, why don't I like this person? Why are they irritating? They remind you of yourself. There is something in them that reminds you of yourself. I'll give you an example. I've recently talked in my story about how love, and to want love as a woman, is almost frowned upon nowadays because, sorry, it's so loud, because suddenly women, we have autonomy, we have a sense of power and freedom and rights, which we didn't have before. And we're in this era of like, you know, fuck man, we don't need man. We're a strong, independent woman who can do things ourselves. So if you're a woman and you say, you know what, I want a man, or I want love, people will frown upon you for that. That girl is so obsessed with love. She is so boy crazy. Of course we don't want to be like that, and yeah, we want to focus on ourselves, blah, blah, blah. But it is not a crime to want love. Love is what drives the world. Listen to every song in the world, okay? 98% of songs, they are about love, because we want love. We're humans, we crave it, we want love. There is nothing wrong. She can't accept that part of herself, and there's nothing wrong with that. But whatever we don't accept in ourselves, we're simply going to project that on others. And that's why people have so much to say about how other people live their life and so little to say about their own, okay? Because we're perfect. We're not. Other areas you can notice your shadow self come out is in triggering situations, okay? If you're in a situation and you just notice yourself getting riled up, or you feel jealousy, reactive, whatever, I don't really feel that way as much, because once you can acknowledge that part, you will notice it coming out in other situations. What do you lack self-confidence in? And like, why do you lack self-confidence? Maybe your parents, they were very critical of you. They always made you feel like you needed to be perfect, you needed to do so much. So if you failed at school, or you fail at something in life, you feel like you are not worthy of something good. You go another layer deeper. In my childhood, this happened. Now we can go to specific situations. Who did this to me? And then you can come up with a healing plan for yourself, okay? In that moment, you need to learn to self-regulate. We cannot shun our shadow self. Sometimes we're like, oh my God, why am I like this, right? Like, oh, why am I boy crazy? Why do I want love so much? Why do I want that person to be my friend? Why do I want that? Why do I want even male validation? This is a big one for women. Whether we like it or not, it's so fucking deeply ingrained in us that we want male validation. And I think so many of us, we just shun that. And we should, right? But it's there. It's hard to not want that when we've been raised in a society which just primes us for the male gaze.